This is TJR's Classic Rock Corner podcast with your host, the Classic Rock Brainiac, yours truly, Terrence Reardon. Sit back and listen to me gush over albums that I love that either had an impact on my life or rock and roll in general, and be rest assured that there's no country or rap nonsense to be found here. So welcome to another exciting episode of TJR's Classic Rock Corner podcast. The king has returned. The boss is back. It's the Classic Rock Brainiac Terrence Reardon on TJR's Classic Rock Corner podcast with another brand new episode, this time pertaining to a Canadian hard rock act who, between 1981 and 1987, were one of the biggest acts in the world. And this band saw their first four albums all sell multi-platinum greatness. With their fifth album of the decade, their last for Columbia Records, only going gold, despite having a hit on it. The band was the other big band from Canada during the 1980s that was not called Rush or Triumph or Bryan Adams. It's Loverboy. And today's episode will be focused on Loverboy's 1981 masterpiece of an album called Get Lucky. And I have a lot to say about Get Lucky because it's a great record. But before I get into Get Lucky, I want to talk about some updates in the classic rock vernacular. So I figured I'd share it with you. David Gilmour, formerly of Pink Floyd, his current solo album, Luck and Strange, debuted at number 10 on the Billboard album charts a couple months ago, which I needed a chance to bring up because I was so busy with other things. But it debuted at number 10, but then it fell off the charts in 2 weeks. At least it wasn't Bon Jovi in and out of the charts in a week. But the problem is, most music fans these days just want Taylor Swift. That Jezebel. That Puff Daddy partying wench. So yeah. Luck and Strange should have been bigger, but never mind. I think a great record. The episode's my most successful episode up to this point on this new venture. So I'm very happy with the success. And it went to number 10 on the Billboard 200, number 2 on the album, the Rock and Alternatives album chart, and they gave number 1 to William Elvis. Terrence, don't you mean Billy Eilish? Yeah, that Marlboro medium puffin' heifer, who's basically Fiona Apple of the Zoomer generation. And she's just a techno whiny crybaby. Has to play on her computer to come up with music. And singing about woe is me, life sucks, then you die. Oh my god. You know, that, and they call her rock and roll. I guess you can call Britney Spears death metal. This is insanity, folks. But yeah, a lot of people are tired of all this crap of hip-hop, rap, Puff Daddy parties, etc., etc., etc. This is just insane. And Taylor Swift is like a damn cockroach. Just when you think you get rid of her, she comes back, crawling out of the woodwork like a little bug. So yeah, congrats to David on the success of Luck and Strange. And he just finished a tour and supporting the album, playing shows in LA, New York, London, and Rome. Although it was done Rome, London, LA, then New York. With a guest appearance on the Jimmy Fallon show. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon, yeah, I'm glad he's apolitical. And Jimmy Fallon is a huge Pink Floyd fan. So his interview with David was just as funny as the interview he did with Roger Waters a number of years ago. The interview with Roger was great. And on the interview that Fallon did with Gilmour dispelled a lot of myths, including the coughing fit at the beginning of the title track to Wish You Were Here. David said, well, I never smoked cancer sticks in my entire life after my dad made a deal with me when I was 14 that if I didn't smoke by the time I was 17, he'd teach me to drive a car. So David was like, you got yourself a sale. So 3 years later, David at 17 said, Dad, I don't smoke. I want my driver's license. Can you teach me how to drive? And the father's like, well, I don't remember doing that. And David's like, well, what do I do? But David would have been like, normal convention would have been like, well, I'll start smoking now. But David's like, no way, Jose. That's why his voice held up. Now, the odd marijuana joint, as Roscoe P. Coltrane would call it, the odd joint was not ruled out. Because if you saw the picture of David with Paul McCartney at Knepworth watching the Rolling Stones and Skynyrd in 1976, David had a spliff or a joint in his hand. And then his kids who saw the photo like, hey Dad, you said you didn't smoke. What's that? He's like, well, it was the 70s and we were partaking in marijuana, so you guys can use a car. I'm ashamed of myself. But that's what happened. But on another note, Pink Floyd, speaking of, they sold their catalog for $400 million to Sony Music, who had been licensing the band's back catalog for the last 50 years anyway. So Sony Music now owns the rights to the Pink Floyd recorded catalog work. It would have been more money if they had included publishing, but Roger Waters does not want his songs being used in commercials, so the publishing went out the window. Because Roger Waters will not sell his songs to commercials to have his songs used in burger ads, nor to sell cars, nor Jaguars, nor hamburgers. And, excuse me. At least Roger Waters has integrity, and Pink Floyd do as well. But they're all getting older and older, so they need a comfortable nest egg to retire to. Excuse me as I burp. And then add to that, we also have news of a box set from Genesis. The release of the 50th anniversary of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which brings the original 1974 mix back in print on CD for the first time in over 17 years. The last time it was in print here in the States was 17 years ago. And on top of that, the only other place you could get the original mix on CD was in Canada. So you're going to get the original mix back on CD, newly remastered, plus the full Shrine Auditorium show, this time with the songs that were not on Archive 1, like the full version of It, complete with Phil Collins dropping a drumstick as he's playing, Watcher of the Skies, and the musical box encore. I think it's still remixed with some overdubs, but hey, it's good to have it, and great to have that performance once again back in print, because that archive box set is now long out of print. So if you're going to get that, I urge you to get this box set, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. And luckily that remix from 2007 is not being considered. Thank goodness for that. And in sad news, we lost Iron Maiden lead singer Paul Di'Anno, the man who sang those brilliant lead vocals on the first two albums, self-titled and Killers. And his punkish baritone was what Maiden needed in those early days. And those first two albums, songs like Prowler, Remember Tomorrow, Running Free, Phantom of the Opera, Strange World, Sanctuary if you had the album here in the States, Charlotte the Harlot, Iron Maiden, and then on Killers, Rothschild, Murders in the Rue Morgue, Another World, Another Life, Innocent Exile, the title track to Killers, Twilight Zone, Prodigal Son, Purgatory, and Drifter. He was a phenomenal singer, and I know a lot of people didn't like his singing, but I am one of those who can like both Bruce and Paul Di'Anno. Paul Di'Anno sadly had health issues, and he passed away from heart failure at the age of 66 years old. And I will do an Iron Maiden episode as a tribute to him in the near future, but for now, I want to finish my little music news thing and go straight into a new episode on the 1981 Loverboy masterpiece entitled Get Lucky. Not a reference to the Mark Knopfler album of the same name from 2009, nor that Daft Punk one-hit track from 1990, from the early 2010s, but the Loverboy album called Get Lucky. Here's my look at it, and I hope you enjoy it. Get Lucky was Loverboy's second album, released in October of 1981, almost exactly a year after their debut album was released. And the band comprised of co-founder, guitarist, songwriter, producer Paul Dean, singer, songwriter, co-founder Mike Renoski, better known to us as Mike Reno, drummer Matt Frenette, keyboard player, sax player Doug Johnson, and the late great bass playing dynamo bass player Scott Smith. May he lay in peace. Those five formed Loverboy in 1979 after Paul Dean was ixnayed from the band Streetheart, and Mike Reno bailed from the band Moxie. And Loverboy formed in 1979, and one of their first gigs was opening for Kiss. Believe it or not, they opened for Kiss on some shows of the Dynasty Tour in Vancouver, before they even had a record deal. And while in the Canadian audiences, they got a deal with Columbia Records in Canada and also in the US, recorded their debut album and released it in 1980. But by the front cover of the album, you wouldn't have expected this band to be a hard rock band with new wave elements. You would have thought it was a Lou Reed album from the 70s, or even a Velvet Underground album cover, or a television album cover, or a Space Hog album cover, not Loverboy. Oh my goodness. So the album was tanking. The album didn't do squat for about 6 months until someone in America decided to play Turn Me Loose on the radio. And when that song hit, the fans just started being queued up like, God, there's more bands from Canada? We thought there was only Rush and Triumph and well, Saga hadn't broken out yet, but they had already released albums by then. Bryan Adams released his debut album in 1980. So the Canadian invasion was about to be unleashed. And Turn Me Loose, which was released as a single in, I think, February, March of 81, just 6 or 7 months after the album was released, the debut, the album slowly started to pick up momentum. And a little factoid, the vocal on Turn Me Loose was a re-record. Because the original vocal, the words were different, and there was no scream. Mike Reno, God bless him, was like, guys, he said to producer Bruce Fairbairn and Bob Rock and Mike Frazier, guys, I want to sing it again, eh? I'm like, hey, it's already mixed, this song's already done. He's like, no, guys, I could do better, trust me, I could do better. So they grabbed the multi-track, transferred the instrumental and the backing vocals to a new 24-track tape, removed the vocals. They couldn't wipe them out because in those days, you couldn't wipe out a vocal track. It was impossible. Everything was done manually. So they had to go in, remix the instrumental, warm up the microphones. It took like an hour, 2 hours to do, because that particular day they were doing overdubs for guitar parts for Paul Dean for another few tracks. And then Mike Reno went into a trance when he did the vocal for Turn Me Loose, changed the lyrics, and then when it got to Fly My Way, he screamed it so loud that Bruce Fairbairn, Paul Dean, excuse me, I almost had a brain fart, Bob Rock and Mike Frazier stood there like, oh my God, this is so much better, eh? This is the keeper on the record, eh? And after the vocal track, re-recording the vocal, Mike Reno left the studio, sweating bullets. And we kid you not, there was a full moon outside the recording studio. So he was singing like a howling wolf. A wolf in heat, literally, when he did that vocal. I didn't know this, but I figured I'd share this with you people, because some people didn't know why was that scream there. Now you know. And that song was the band's first top 40 hit here in the States. And it led them to opening up for their fellow CBS label mates, Kansas, on their final tour for the Audio Visions album, the final tour of the original lineup. So Kansas fans were wowed by this 5-man band from Canada. And then the little band from Texas, ZZ Top, took Loverboy out on tour in the summer of 81 when they were supporting El Loco, the album with Pearl Necklace and Tube Snake Boogie. They're like, oh, these Canadian boys are good. We want Billy and Dusty and Frank, but these 5 Canucks are killing it. They're kicking some ass. We gotta buy their records. That's the ZZ Top fans. So they bought the first Loverboy album eventually, and it took a while to catch on, but when it did, it climbed to number 14. Eventually went platinum. It took almost a year to do so, but it was not a fast success. It wasn't like Boston or Van Halen, or even Men at Work, or other bands that were fast debut albums selling maniacs right off the bat. But another act who was Columbia Records label mates with Loverboy, Journey, heard that first album, and they're like, we got to bring that band on tour with us when we tour Escape. Because Escape was released in the summer of '81, and they were planning their North American tour for the fall. So Loverboy had to go back in the studio rather quick to record the focus of this episode. Their second album, Get Lucky, which they recorded in about 5 weeks' time at Mushroom Studios, where Hart recorded Dreamboat Annie, and Magazine. And then it was recorded at Mushroom Studios with Bruce Fairbairn producing once again, along this time guitarist Paul Dean, so there was two producers. It was recorded at Mushroom Studios by engineer Keith Stein and assistant engineer Rob Porter. And it was once again mixed at the studio that they recorded their debut, Little Mountain Studios, with Bob Rock as the mixing engineer and Mike Frazier as the assistant mixing engineer. All three, Bob Rock, Mike Frazier, and Bruce Fairbairn, would go on to have very successful careers. I'll talk about their successful careers post-Loverboy when I'm done with the review. And when people went to buy this album in October 1981, luckily they didn't get an album cover that resembled a Velvet Underground album cover this time around, of some man or woman chain smoking on the front cover. This time it was someone in a pair of red leather pants with fingers with the lucky symbol right behind the bosom of the behind of the person wearing the leather pants. And it said the bottom, the tushy, the ass on the back sleeve on the front cover of the album belonged to a then 13-year-old girl named Tamara Kennedy, who was the daughter of the photographer of the front cover of the album, David Kennedy. So they took the front cover. Sadly, Tamara Kennedy would pass away in a car accident in 1993. But her backside was forever immortalized as the front cover of a hard rock record. And the back cover of the album was a black and white photo of the band running towards the stage, to take the stage, I think, before the release of the Get Lucky album or sometime during the tour in support of the first album. And we do know that the cover design was done by John Berg at Columbia Records, who is forever known to us, to Judas Priest fans, for creating the band's legendary logo that they used on every album from the US release of Point of Entry forward. And yeah, that logo that Priest has used ever since, well, John Berg came up with it. And he also came up with a lot of great album covers when he worked at Columbia Records, including the Chicago album cover where it looked like a Hershey candy bar. He did a lot of album covers at Columbia Records. May John Berg, too, rest in peace. So this album had a better album cover, and the songs were better than the first album. I mean, a lot of first albums have some good moments and some clunkers. This follow-up album, perfection, top to bottom. And I think, yeah, the next two albums were perfection, top to bottom as well. And my backstory with this album, like I said at the beginning of the show, was via my oldest sister Tony, who had this album on vinyl back in 1981. Yeah, Christmas 81, she got on vinyl simultaneously with Moving Pictures by Rush, Foreigner 4 by Foreigner, and Precious Time by Pat Benatar. All four albums are classics. That Christmas I got Hotel California, Their Greatest Hits Volume 1, 1971 to 75, in the long run by the Eagles on cassette tape, and Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band's 9 to 9 on cassette tape, along with a Sesame Street cassette player. Yeah, I remember having it and then losing it a few months later at my grandmother's house. I misplaced it like a complete fool that I was. But yeah, Get Lucky, I had my sister Tony had on vinyl, and when I got my record player in October 1983, she was kind enough to give me the record. So I played that record to prepare me for the follow-up album, which I'll talk about my love for that album in an overview of everything post this album. Then eventually I got on a cassette with an altered track listing, which pissed me off. I didn't know that the cassette track listing was altered, to my horror and disgust, because the way it was sequenced on the vinyl record and the CD, masterpiece. What they did to the cassette track listing, pure utter stupidity on Columbia Records' part. And they were one of the best record labels out there, the Big Red Columbia. And everyone and their mother was on that record label. Billy Joel, Journey, Pink Floyd, everyone was on Columbia at that time. Judas Priest. And now they had Loverboy, and they were about to go even bigger with that record label. Oh, man. But Columbia Records sometimes did drop the ball. And they even had some not-so-hard rock artists like Neil Diamond on their label, Paul Simon. Great record label. But the cassette version I got in early 87 via my oldest sister's ex-boyfriend, Peter, gave me his cassette copy, and I was mortified at the track sequence, which read like this: working for the week, side one, working for the weekend, when it's over, emotional, take me to the top. I'm like, wait a minute, just a doggone how-do. And then side two was Lucky Ones, It's Your Life, Gangs in the Street, Jump, and Watch Out. I'm like, what the hell is this? What were they trying to do here? They ruined the flow of the damn record. That's what they did. But I'm one schmuck to say that. Then one day in October of, I think it was September or October of 2006, I played the album. I was working at Sounds Good Music, getting situated at the job, playing it on vinyl. Hadn't heard the album in a long, long time. It had been like almost 2+ decades since I heard the damn... 2 decades since I heard the album top to bottom. And I was like, I wonder if this album's back on CD again, because it was out of print at the time. Luckily, Columbia Records had just released a remastered CD of it, so I ordered it, came in a few days later. And ironically, in a strange twist of fate, the album was an episode of In the Studio with Redbeard that same weekend it came in. Talk about luck. Good luck, and this album has always been a good luck charm around my neck, and one of my all-time favorite hard rock albums of the early 80s, and one of the best albums of the 1980s Canadian invasion that invaded the good old US of A. And I might as well begin my love fest for this classic masterpiece of an album right this second. We begin with Mississippi Queen. No, just kidding. You're thinking, why'd you say Mississippi Queen? Because like Mississippi Queen, this had the cowbell opening. Because when you're hearing the first 3 cowbell notes, the dunk, 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 you're thinking da-da-da-da, but nope. It's Working for the Weekend, which was written by, if I'm not mistaken, the song was written by, drummer Matt Frenette, Mike Reno, and Paul Dean. And it begins with that killer riff in the key of B. Dun 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 da 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 dun 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 da da da. Oh my goodness. And the song was originally titled Waitin' for the Weekend. And the song was conceptualized when guitarist Paul Dean was walking along the beach in Vancouver on a Wednesday afternoon. And he noticed that the area was deserted since most people were at work. He explained in an interview, quote, I was walking down close to where I was living. It was a Wednesday afternoon, beautiful afternoon, and I'm walking in this heavily populated area, and it was deserted. Everyone was at work, and me being the musician, I'm out working, and my work is okay. What am I going to do for inspiration? Where can I find it? So I'm out on the beach and wondering, where is everybody? Well, I guess they're all waiting for the weekend. And then at one point, they were going to call the song Piece of My Heart. But then, of course, you know, Janis Joplin's song of the same name. And this song is the most famous song in the album. And the lyrics, obviously, I'm reading them. Everyone's looking to see what you can do. Everyone's watching to see what you will do. Everyone's looking at you. Everyone's wondering, will you come out tonight? Everyone's trying to get it right. And then the chorus, Mike Reno singing the high end, and Paul Dean harmonizing. Everybody's working for the weekend. Everybody wants a new romance. Everybody's going off the deep end. Everybody needs a second chance. And then the second chorus, you want a piece of my heart, you better start from the start. You want to be in the show, come on, baby, let's go in that guitar riff. The dun 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 doo 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 doo. Oh my God, that guitar riff hits me every time I hear it. Killer. Second verse, everyone's looking to see if it was you. Everyone wants you to come through. Everyone's hoping it will all work out. Everyone's waiting. They're holding out. Then a repeat of the chorus, which is killer. Then the post-chorus again. And then the guitar solo with the... which is alternating between G and its relative key of B minor. Bum, 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 bum. And then the hey, dun, 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 doo, doo, doo. A repeat of that. Killer guitar solo. Then two final repeat of the post-choruses. And then ending with that dun, 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 doo, doo, doo. Oh my goodness. What a killer tune. And yeah, I know a lot of people are tired of the song, and this song was actually worked up on a sound check after the first album period, and the band was just like, what a killer, a great song. And like I said, and then another story here, according to the essay on the Get Lucky remastered CD, when they took the Get Lucky masters to be mastered in New York by George Marino, may he also lay in peace, they were thinking of opening the album with what was originally called Waiting for the Weekend, which eventually turned into Piece of My Heart. But then, of course, we know the Janis Joplin tune. And then Paul Atkinson, who was Columbia Records' A&R guy at the time, said to the guys, No. Call it Working for the Weekend. That's the hook. They changed the title right there and then just for the artwork. And they listened to the guy and it worked out very well. And it became the first smash hit off the album that cast off any doubts that the band wasn't going to be able to keep the momentum going from the debut. And the song peaked at number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the beginning of 1982. And it fared better on Billboard's Top Rock Album Tracks chart in those days, or Billboard's Top Rock charts, as it was known for the rock radio songs chart in those days. It peaked at number 2. In the video, which was a performance clip, was played ad nauseum on MTV. In fact, the band shot a total of 4 videos for this album, and MTV aired all 4 of them in heavy rotation. And of course this song, despite the fact it was goofed on by those fools Beavis and Butthead, this song, Working for the Weekend, no matter how many times I play it, I still think it's a catchy tune. And you hear it every Friday on every radio classic rock station as people are about to go home for the weekend. But the album is not just Working for the Weekend and filler, because there's plenty more to be had with this album, and this is only just the beginning of a classic album. Working for the Weekend, amazing opening track, and just a killer, amazing track, and that's all I got to say about that. Now we get to the next track, which is a song called When It's Over, and it was written by, if I'm not mistaken here, it was written by Paul Dean and Mike Reno. And it's a mid-tempo number, which begins with Doug Johnson's synthesizer arpeggiating thing there, into this killer riff from Paul Dean, the da-da-da-dun, doo-ding. And then right into the vocals, when you look into his eyes, it comes to you as no surprise. It's always the same. Every time he's out with you, he tries to tell you what to do. You don't need it that way. Sometimes you think you're playing the fool. He's running around breaking all the rules. Somehow that don't seem fair. There's got to be a better way, you know what I'm trying to say. Because deep down inside, you're living a life in total lies. What did he ever do for you? What is he trying to put you through? I just don't understand. So basically, it's about an outsider telling a girl to get the hell away from that cheating cretin she's with. You showed him love and tenderness, touched him with your sweet caress, now he's leaving you, so what's the point in working it out? Tell me what I'm saying, what it's all about, that's why I'm saying. And then the chorus, which is, again, predominantly sung by Mike Reno and Paul Dean, they're singing, I hope you're with me, I hope you're with me. And then you hear a third voice come in with the when it's over, which is backing singer Nancy Nash, who sang those female backing vocals on, Turn Me Loose on the previous album. She returns on this particular track, singing the female harmonies on this track, although Paul Dean is doing the male backing vocals. So it's like you hear three voices in the chorus, which is kind of great for a change. I hope you're with me when it's over. I hope you're with me. I hope you're with me when it's over. You won't be lonely when it's over. And then it goes into B minor for the bridge, which is the it's over, it's over, it's over. Oh my goodness. While Mike Reno's singing that melody, Nancy Nash is singing the it's over, it's over, it's over. That part, I can't even reach that high. And then Paul Dean singing the lower harmony, which is it's over, it's over, it's over. If you listen very carefully, you're like, wow, 3-part harmony. Brilliant. And then, of course, Paul Dean does that killer guitar solo. And basically, then in the next verse, and in the morning when he's gone, please don't sing that sad, sad song. I don't want to hear it. Forget about him. Let him go. It won't hurt what he don't know. What he's trying to say to you, what he's trying to tell you, he really don't care. Face the truth and realize you don't need alibis no more. So basically he's saying to his girl, don't go back to that, pardon my language, piece of shit. You're with a guy like me, I'll treat you like gold. As I drop the booklet to the Get Lucky remaster here. And there's another tidbit about that particular track as I read this thing. Paul Dean played the track back, and Fairbairn liked what he had heard, and he said about the song, we recorded When It's Over right there and then, and it worked out kind of well. And it was a kind of a big song for the band. And When It's Over, again, was another hit off the album. I mean, it wasn't a big top 40 hit, not to my recollection, but I do know it did well on Billboard's Top Rock Albums track chart. It was a top 20 on that chart, if I'm not mistaken. And it peaked at number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100. And this song was, like I said, released as an edited single, which they used for the promotional video, which is just the band in a dark room playing the tune. And it's a mid-tempo power ballad. And it peaked at number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100, but Album Rock Radio played it a lot. And the single edit is almost 4 minutes in length, which is the version they use for the video, or promotional film. And then the version that appears on the album clocks in at over 5 minutes. Just a great rockin' tune. And another great song from Loverboy. When It's Over was, like I said, another hit for the band. But kind of in the grand scheme of things, some people forget about the tune now. I don't know why, but they just do. But When It's Over, great tune, great song, not much more I can add. Now we get to a song called Jump. No, not a cover of the David Lee Roth of the Van Halen tune, and no, not that crisscross rapping circus crap either. It's a song which was written by, again, Mike Reno and Paul Dean, with a little help from a fellow Canadian rocker, Bryan Adams, plus Jim Vallance and drummer Matt Frenette. And this rockin' ditty is a killer tune in the key of D. And was it you that didn't need me like this, sneaking around with the lights go down low? It feels so good. I hope it doesn't fade away. But if they catch us here, oh my goodness, tonight. You see, I'm singing the song because it's so damn hooky. And this song was played live, like the two previous tracks on the subsequent tour. And then the chorus, when I say jump, you better jump. When I say walk, you better get ready to say goodbye. Oh my goodness. Singing the damn tune. It's so catchy and hooky and memorable. You didn't hear this on the radio. It was released as a single, but this song is killer, and catchy and hooky. Then the next verse, now you can't always get what you want when you want it, so you settle for second best. You need it so bad, don't matter what price you pay. When you're living on the line, taking chances like this one slip could do the trick. Because you bet your last buck, they'll be the first to get the last lick. Then a repeat of the chorus, which is catchy and hooky, and then the guitar solo just kicking it as always. Paul Dean, a brilliant lead guitarist, as always, just very overlooked in the grand scheme of guitar heroes. This song features one of his best guitar solos, and the final verse, and when I look at you now, somehow it don't seem right, but it feels so good tonight. And then a repeat of the chorus to end the song. And this song was played, like I said, on the subsequent tour in support of Get Lucky, usually as the opening song. But this song is so catchy, hooky, killer, kick-ass. I don't know what else to say about Jump, but this song makes me want to jump and boogie. Meaning, it kicks reconnaissance ass, basically. And yeah, Loverboy proving that they could appeal to the new wave dudes and the hard rockers without getting into a fight between who was better, Oingo Boingo or Motorhead. Or, just like the Cars before them. The Cars appealed to both the new wave crowd and the headbangers, the hard rockers. And the fact that Loverboy opened for the likes of Kansas and ZZ Top didn't hurt them either. But Jump, killer tune, not much more story about it, but I think a catchy, hooky song. Was released as a single, but it didn't really set the world on fire. But killer tune, great song, not much more I can say. Now we get to the next track on the album, which is called Gangs in the Street, which begins with a hi-hat of Matt Fournette going and then Doug Johnson's synthesizers going bow, bow. This song in the key of A flat minor just kicking ass. And then it goes into this track, which also had a promotional video for it, where the band's performing in the same setup as Working for the Weekend, but wearing all black this time. And them out in an alley, looking like a tough guy, looking like a bunch of gang members who are about to ready to go rumble. Whereas, you think maybe this song could have been written for the Warriors or the Wanderers, but the song came out like almost 3 years after those two movies. And Paul Dean's riff, which is da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-dun. Mike Reno writing the lyrics, put your hands in the air, you better take care of your money or your life, so don't think twice. Gonna get what they need, it ain't nothing but greed, better watch what you do or you'll know that you're through. And then the pre-chorus, what would you do, dun, if they were looking at you, but what would you say if they were walking your way? And then the second verse, looks like there's gonna be a showdown, da-da. You better not slow down, da-da. Better watch what you say, 'cause you know they're not playing. Oh my goodness, don't you look over there, you better not stare. Get down on your knees, you're begging them please. And then the chorus, gangs in the street, looking for you, looking for me, gangs in the street, ready for you and they're ready for me. And then Paul Dean's guitar solo, just precise, kicking it, just shredding like no tomorrow. Great guitarist Paul Dean is. And then, two more repeats of the chorus. And then all of a sudden, repeat of the first verse, put your hands in the air, you better take care of your money or your life, so don't think twice. Better watch what you say, or you know that you'll pay. Better watch what you do, or you know that you're through. And then that killer drum fill by Matt Fournette. I don't know what they were drinking, the water the Canadians were drinking, but they had a lot of great drummers from Canada that were not named Neil Peart. You had Steve Nagus of Saga. You also had Matt Fournette of Loverboy. You had Gilmore of Triumph. 3 other drummers aside Neil Peart that came from Canada. And then back to the song, gangs in the street looking for you, gangs in the street looking for me, gangs in the street, hey you looking for me, gangs in the street we're gonna see, da 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 da. Oh my goodness. What a great tune Gangs in the Street is. And I don't know what else backstory it is, but I know that the song was not a single. I can research real quick, but I do know that the song did not... Yep, the song was not a single. It was a B-side, but it was not a single. But then again, some of the best songs that were ever written were not ever released as singles. But Gangs in the Street, killer tune, great rocker, not much more I can add. But a great mid-tempo rocker about the dangers of gang life. Oh my goodness. Now we come to the end of side 1 of Get Lucky with a Paul Dean composition called Emotional. And it's not sung by Mike Reno, but Paul Dean himself. He does the lead vocal in this track. A lot of people, when they were bought this album, like, who the hell is singing it? That's not Mike Reno's voice. It turns out it was Paul Dean's first and only lead vocal on a Loverboy track. And this song could have fit on any Rolling Stones album, like Some Girls. You know, just think of a song like Respectable or Summer Romance on Emotional Rescue, where the boys go on Emotional Rescue, Hang Fire, in that same sort of tempo, and Paul Dean kind of doing his baritone Mick Jagger type of, yeah, I can't promise you pearls and diamonds, I got no Rolls Royce, and you know it's a good thing if I gave you any choice, but you've heard all this beforehand, now baby won't you dry your eyes, take some disappointment from, oh my goodness, no, it's a delicate situation. I'll be as gentle as I can. 7 long years of rock and roll should show you where I am, but you heard all this beforehand about the things I don't do. We're gonna make it this time. It's up to you. And then you're so emotional, you never you use your head, give your heart a rest. You're so emotional, so downright down emotional. Never now use your head, give your heart a rest. So emotional, you're so emotional, into this guitar synth thing, which then bleeds into a killer slide guitar solo from Paul Dean, which he just goes bottleneck crazy on the slide, and then the band just rocks out again. Then they just sing a repeat of the chorus again, the same way as they did the first go around, and some scat singing from Paul Dean, and a nice piano solo by Doug Johnson on that Yamaha CP70 electric grand, him doing like a Jerry Lee Lewis type of deal. Amazing piano work. And then a repeat of the chorus again. You're so emotional, so goddamn downright emotional. I apologize for saying GD, I don't mean to utter God's name as a profanity, but it's the lyric. So I'm talking about it in that context. I'm not saying it deliberately, but now use your head, give your heart a rest, so emotional. And then the band just finishes in a triumphant way. And by the by, this song was the final encore on the Get Lucky tour. And on this particular track, if you saw them live back in 1982 when they did this, 81-82, Mike Reno was playing second guitar. You're like, Mike Reno was playing guitar on this? Yeah, he was. He actually can play guitar. Not as good as Paul Dean, but he could play good rhythm guitar, which he did on this particular track in the live versions. And he sang backing vocal, and the live version did appear in the Live in Vancouver 1982. They said it was Live in Vancouver 83. It was 82 concert video, which was an MTV concert. And if I'm not mistaken, a live CD, DVD of it may be reissued at some point. So you're going to get to hear Emotional Live. Hopefully it's the full version of the damn song, because the song is a great lost Rolling Stones track that I think the Rolling Stones could have recorded, but I think Mick and Keith were too drugged up to come up with. This is the Rolling Stones song that should have been. Oh my god. I love this tune. Emotional, great rocker, great up-tempo way to end side 1 of an already killer album. And that's all I got to say. And on the cassette version of Get Lucky, this song was the penultimate song on side 1. And you're like, what? Yeah, and I forgot to mention, Gangs in the Street was the third song on side 2 of the cassette, and Jump was the penultimate song on side 2 of the cassette. You're like, what the hell? Yeah, for time constraints. Now you flip the record over to side 2, and we begin with another big hit for the band, which was an album rock favorite and an MTV favorite called Lucky Ones, which begins with that riff in the key of A, the da 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 da. And it was written by Paul Dean, Mike Reno, Scott Smith, and Denise Thurlow. Da 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 da. That guitar and synthesizer thing. Da 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 da. Into this killer tune. Don't ask me how, but guess who hit the big time? Don't look now, but guess who's back in town? It's so easy, you don't even have to try. You're the winner, you can take the prize. It's a dream come true. That's Mike Reno part there, and then Paul Dean was going, it's a dream come true. Which one will it be? It's a dream come true. We'll just wait and see, which is the pre-chorus. And then the chorus, only the lucky ones get to steal the show. Only the lucky ones really get to know. Only the lucky ones get lucky. And this song here was where they got the album title. Because Mike Reno just sang that phrase while they were recording the vocal. Spur of the moment, and they're like, album title. Then the repeat of the da 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 da. Second verse, same old story. Some things never change with a beautiful girl. Everything's prearranged your whole life. It comes to you for free. You wear it well, so it comes so naturally. Then a repeat of the it's a dream come true thing. And then the chorus again, which is catchy and hooky. Be singing for days on end. And then it goes into the solo section. The song is predominantly in F sharp minor, which is the relative key to A, and it goes into the only the lucky ones. Ah! So he does a scream, not as high as Turn Me Loose, but still a scream is a scream into the solo section, which has that boom, 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 and then the swelling guitar chords coming in. 2 C chords and the drums of Matt Fournette going bum 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 bum, and then 2 D chords. Oh my goodness! And then the drum fill from Matt Fournette, brilliant drummer. And then Paul Dean just shredding another guitar solo. I don't know where the hell he comes up with these guitar solos, but my goodness, he can shred like no other. Killer, killer, killer. And then the repeat of the first verse, the don't ask me how, but guess who hit the big time, don't look now, but guess who's back in town, it's so easy, you don't even have to try, you're the winner, you can take the prize. Lucky ones, only the lucky ones really get to know, only the lucky ones, and it ends with Mike Reno screaming again that, lucky, bum, 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 bam, bum, 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 4 of those, and it ends with that, bam. Oh my goodness. And this song had a promotional video filmed for it. Yeah, the 4th and final promo video shot for the album. It was filmed at the same time as working for The Weeknd in Gangs in the Street, and Paul Reno was playing a Gibson Les Paul Jr. Yeah, it was like a Gibson Les Paul variation. And they were wearing different clothes to what they wore in the Working for The Weeknd clip. Because, and the clip to Gangs in the Street, because like I said, those 3 videos were shot back to back to back, and they filmed When It's Over a little later. That's where they were also dressed in black, or dressed in whatever 1980s garb. But Lucky Ones, Lucky Ones is a great rocker. The song was played live, still is played live to this day, in a very catchy, hooky, I don't know what else to say about it, but yeah, it was an album rock hit. Another thing I forgot to mention about the video for Lucky Ones, it kind of mirrored the Turn Me Loose scenario, pronounced either way, of having stock footage of, this time instead of couples beating the crap out of each other, it was old footage of Miss America or Miss Universe, the women getting their pageants, book ending the video, and then cutting into the band playing for most of the video, and then ending like it began with the collage of Miss Universe, Miss America pageants. And the song was a album rock radio hit, or top 40, peaking at number 36 on the Billboard album rock tracks chart. And looking at this thing, I also forgot to mention When It's Over peaked at number 21 on the album rock tracks chart. And this song was the third and last big hit off the album, especially when it was on MTV and rock radio. MTV played the video for this quite a bit, and rock radio played it, but compared to some of the other songs in the album, it doesn't get the praise that that some other songs do, but this song kicks ass. Now we go from Lucky Ones, which is a great rocker, to another great rocker called It's Your Life, which was written by all 5 members of the band: Reno, Dean, Frenette, Johnson, and Smith. And it's a cheerful up-tempo number in the key of C, which begins with Doug Johnson's synthesizer arpeggiating thing going ba-da-da-da-da-da. Would it be too much to ask you for a light, or is that kind of thing that always ends up in a fight? How come you think that everybody's on the make, but if we carry on this way, there's going to be some give and take? But it's your life. Do what you like. You got this way of turning magic into lust. You take it all for granted. You crush it in the dust. Do. I see you looking, but you really don't care. But all I want to do is run my fingers through your hair. But it's your life. So do what you like. And then the chorus is Mike Dean and Paul Dean and Mike Reno, going, because you really don't know me, you really don't know. And of course Paul Dean singing, because you really don't know me, you really don't know, you really don't know me, you really don't know. It's your life, so do what you like. And into this, you'd be singing that melody for days on end. And what a killer up-tempo tune. I mean, it just, many great up-tempo rockers are in the triumphant key of C. This is one of them. And reading this, then going back into the thing, it repeated the second verse. You got this way of turning magic into lust. You take it all for granted. You crush it in the dust. I see you looking, but you don't even care. But all I want to do is run my fingers. Oh my goodness. And I repeated the but it's your life, do what you like. And then I repeated the because you really don't owe me, you really don't owe me. Oh my goodness. You really don't know me. And then they do that 4 times. And then but it's your life, so do what you like. Oh my goodness. And this song is another cheerful up-tempo killer tune. Not much of a backstory on it, but a great song which they wrote right on the spot while they were making this album. And the song ends with the band just rocking it out, doing a killer. Everything about the song is great. The arrangements, the up-tempo-ness. And if I can read the booklet here, it'll say how long the song is. 4 minutes and 5 seconds long, which is 4 minutes and 5 seconds of greatness. Not much more to add to the song, but a killer up-tempo ditty, which is just an up-tempo killer ditty. And that's all I got to say about that. Now we come to the penultimate song in the album, which is the last song on the cassette version of the album, called Watch Out, which is in a key cross between A and B flat, and it was written by Paul Dean and Doug Johnson. And of course, I think on some CDs the song is at 3 minutes 57 seconds because of a speed thing, so it sounds like it's in B flat. And then on other versions of the album, the song is at 4 minutes and 5 seconds because it's at the proper tape speed of A. So I don't know which is the corrected thing, but the song is still... I love the song anyway. There's a new love in your life. I see it in your smile. There's a new love in your life I've known for a while. And then the chorus. You should have told me from the start. But oh no, you had to leave me in the dark. And now you better watch out. You better watch out for me. So now you better watch out. You better watch out for me. Oh my goodness. See, I'm singing the damn thing. There's a new love in my life. Two can play that game. There's a new love in my life. Now you got the same. Oh, I'm singing. Oh my goodness. You should have told me from the start. Oh, and then you had to leave me in the dark. And then I'm saying, you better watch out. You better watch out for me. A repeat of the chorus. And then during the solo section, he goes, I'm saying, whoa. Oh my goodness. I'm singing the damn thing because it's so amazing. Then a repeat of the chorus again. And just an amazing, amazing tune that kind of gets overlooked in the grand scheme of rock music. But I think it's a great song nevertheless. And then as the song is fading out, as they're going, you better watch out. You better watch out for me. Mike Reno scat sings, now look around, baby. I'm gonna drive you crazy. 'Cause two can play that game. You better watch out. And I'll be doing the same. Oh my goodness. What an amazing, amazing song. I always loved this tune. The more older I get, the more I love it even more as I'm older and older. Because a lot of people are like, how can you like this song? I'm like, well, there's some songs that you just like from the get-go, and others are just what you call slow builders to the breaking point where you're just like, now that song is killer and catchy and awesome. And this song, hooky, catch, killer, kick-ass. Sadly, the song was not ever played live. It would have gone down pretty well, but they had to play songs from the first album because they could have done the whole show as the Get Lucky album. Some fans would have been very pleased with it. And the song tends to be overlooked in the grand scheme of Loverboy tunes now. The song I don't think appears on any compilation albums either, if I'm not mistaken. And this song was not a hit, but then again, some of the best songs in the world were not singles. As I look at the Loverboy discography here, this, like I said, this song was not, the song was not a hit single, but so what? I think the song's great, amazing, an overlooked gem in the band's catalog. And this song, like I said, was not released on, it's on various different greatest hits albums. Watch Out, amazing song. Not much more I can add, and as I'm looking at Discogs here, this song did not make it to any greatest hits album, and neither did Emotional for some reason. But this song, overlooked gem, great tune, not much more to add, but a great song it is, which sets up nicely for the epic album closer, which is Take Me to the Top, which was written by, if I'm looking at the lyrics here, written by Doug Johnson, Paul Dean, and Mike Reno, which begins with that Doug Johnson synthesizer riff, the fum 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 fum. And did you know that the version on the album was the demo? Because the band, this song was a perfect example of demo poisoning, meaning the band recorded such a killer demo of this track that when they tried to re-record the song for the album, it just didn't come out to the band's liking. So basically, the band just kept the demo. Because in the live versions that they would do for the next years, until recently, there would be some significant changes to what you hear on the album. So the song begins with the synthesizer riff, and then Matt Frenette's drumming, Scott Smith's bass guitar going bum, 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 bum. And then Mike Reno doing a vocal for the ages. Here's Looking at You. What do you think the chances are we're going to make it together? And then that killer power chord of Paul Dean with the flange. Here's a Calling Your Name Because I Have to Do Things I Have to Do. And then the pre-chorus, What's a Poor Boy to Do When He's Fallen in Love with You? Help me make it through the night. Everything's going to be all right. And then that wah-wah guitar, the bang go wah. Come to me deep in the night. Look at you. I feel all right. Crazy little things you do make me want to be with you tonight. And then a repeat of the What's a Poor Boy to Do When He's Fallen in Love with You section. Oh my goodness. And then the chorus. You take me to the top. Take me to the top. Take me to the top. Yes, you take me. Take me to the. Take me to the. Take me to the top. Back into the fucking. Pardon my language. And then a series of pick slides and effects from Paul Dean on the guitar. Then the next verse. Just give me your hand. Hold it out. Close your eyes. Move up close to me. Just talk to me in the tone of voice. You really don't leave me any choice, you see. And then a repeat of the What's a Poor Boy to Do section, which is killer as always. And then the You Take Me to the Top, Take Me to the Top, the chorus. Excuse me. And then instead of going top like in the first time, Mike Reno does the vocal leap of top into, on the album, thank goodness, a killer guitar solo from Paul Dean, which, oh man, I don't know why he didn't do it live for years, but this guitar solo is just so amazing. I think in my mind it just cries out David Gilmour, Pink Floyd-like vibes with this guitar solo here. It's just like, dun 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 dun. Oh my goodness. Him just shredding like no tomorrow. And for years when they did this live, it was replaced by Doug Johnson's alto saxophone. The saxophone doesn't work on this tune, and the guitar is like, how can you replace a guitar solo with an alto sax? It doesn't sound right. It's got to be that killer guitar solo. And then subsequent live versions as of late, it will go into a little lengthy jam, which will expand this song to about 12 minutes in length, with Doug Johnson doing a piano solo after the saxophone solo. And then Paul Dean finally, in recent years, getting to do the guitar solo during the jam, which is better. You know, I'm like, why didn't they do this back then? Oh yeah, they had to do so much for time constraints and set lists. Kind of ridiculous, but the guitar solo is just, oh my goodness. One of Paul Dean's finest guitar solo moments in recorded history is on this particular track. One of my favorite guitar solos of all time. And then, just let me lay my hands on you. That's the thing I want to do. Want to spend some time alone. Give me a chance. I'll take you home. And then the whoa. And then a repeat of the What's a Poor Boy to Do When He's Fallen in Love with You section. And then the final run of the chorus. Take me to the top. Take me to the top. Take me to the top. Oh man. And then the Take me to the top into the ending section, which is in the melody of the What's a Poor Boy to Do section, with Paul Dean doing some spastic guitar soloing as Mike Reno singing, talk about love, talk about love, talk about love, talk about love. You think maybe he nicked that from Trampled Underfoot by Led Zeppelin, because that's the chorus in that track. Talk about love. Oh my goodness. I don't mean to get off topic, but oh man. Talk about love. Talk about love. Talk about love as Paul Dean is shredding. And then it ends with that big E minor chord and Mike Reno doing the love as the power chord swallows the drum fill, where Matt Fournette's hitting every drum in his path and his kit. And then the synthesizer fades away and some piano doodling to end the album. And the song was released as a rock radio single, which, if I'm not mistaken, was a top 40 album rock hit. I'm looking at this thing. Yeah, it went to number... Hang on. Yeah, Take Me to the Top went to number 23 on the album Rock Tracks chart in 1982, which means the song did well on rock radio. A promotional video was not ever made, but pop stations was not going to play this tune because the song was over 6 minutes, but album rock radio back then, they could still get away with playing a lengthy song that clocked in at over 6 minutes in length. And when I heard this on In the Studio with Redbeard for the first time in ages back in 2006, when I recorded this episode off the radio, I was like, oh man, music to my ears. You don't get to hear songs of this length on the regular radio anymore. Just a killer tune. And that, my friends, is how the Get Lucky album ends. And my synopsis of the songs in the album, I apologize if this review was not as long as I hoped it to be, but trying to research things without using Wikipedia is very tricky, but I can do the best I can, and reciting the lyrics, always good fun. When Get Lucky by Loverboy was released in October of 1981, the album quickly shipped gold, meaning it went gold on advance orders of 500,000 copies, and by December of 1981 it went platinum, and by May of 1982 it went all the way to number 7 on the Billboard album chart, which was the highest position of any Loverboy album ever. And its success spurred the album to sell over 4 million copies in just the United States alone, and remain on the Billboard 200 for over 122 weeks. That's over 2.5 years, folks. The album was on the Billboard 200 for over 2 years. Think about that. These days, a rock album won't last that long. A new rock album won't even do 4 weeks. It'll do maybe 3. But 122 weeks, that's incredible. So basically, Loverboy were pretty big for a while. Throughout the 1980s, they were huge. Not only did this album sell well here in the States, but the band won 6 Juno Awards, which are equivalent to the Canadian Grammy Awards, for Best Group, Best Album, Best Producer, a lot of Junos, which are equivalent of the Canadian version of the Grammy Awards. They even beat out Rush, but I can take it, because if Rush were to lose to any other good band, it'd be Loverboy. Even Bryan Adams' You Want It, You Got It album, released in the same year as Get Lucky, and around the same time as Get Lucky, to me was the better album than their actual debut that came out coincidentally in 1980. So Bryan Adams' You Want It, You Got It, better album than the first album. In my mind, the first real true Bryan Adams album was You Want It, You Got It. And ironically enough, Bryan Adams opened for Loverboy during the Get Lucky tour, which finally broke to them playing arenas in 1982. And also the success of Get Lucky launched the careers of Bruce Fairbairn as a producer, who would go on to work with the likes of Aerosmith on Permanent Vacation, Pump and Get a Grip, Bon Jovi, or some call him Bon Phony, Slippery When Wet, and what was that other album? Oh yeah, New Jersey. Then also Poison in their 1990 album Flesh and Blood. Ugh, God, do I not like Poison. AC/DC in their classic The Razor's Edge. It's not jock rock, it's a great record. Some songs are better than others. AC/DC Live from 1992. I go for the 2 CD version. The one disc is just shoddy, no deep tracks. And he also produced, Balance by Van Halen. Not Van Hagar, not Vangina, but Van Halen. Thank you very much. That album he produced. To the Faithful Departed, which was the third album by the alternative rock band The Cranberries. May Dolores O'Riordan lay in peace. She had the voice of a female banshee leprechaun. Troubled soul who died young. May she lay in peace. That album had Salvation and Free to Decide, which were the big hits off that album. Then he produced Kiss's Psycho Circus. Yeah, the dreaded word kiss. But yeah, Psycho Circus should have been the final Kiss album in my opinion, but never mind. And yeah, Bruce Fairbairn did a reasonable job producing that album as far as I'm concerned. And the last thing he produced before his passing in 1999 was The Ladder by Yes. And sadly, he was discovered by John Anderson, the lead singer of Yes, in his apartment in Canada, victim of a heart attack before his 50th birthday. Bob Rock, the other big name who worked on this album, would go on to work with the likes of Motley Crue, on Dr. Feelgood, The Cult, Sonic Temple, Whitesnake, Slip of the Tongue, I believe he worked on. And he also worked on several Metallica albums. The Black Album, Live Binge and Purge, or Live Shit Binge and Purge, Load, Reload, Garage Inc., S&M, the song for Mission Impossible 2, I Disappear, and last but damn sure not least, the dreaded Saint Anger. And he's worked with others like Farouk Assault, an alternative rock band from the 90s. He produced an album or two for them. And he's produced an awful lot of artists himself. So he's had a very successful track record as a producer since then. And Mike Frazier, the assistant mixing engineer on the album, he's gone on to work with the likes of AC/DC, Whitesnake, Coverdale Page, did their album as an engineer. Mixed Networth 1990, which featured appearances by Genesis, Pink Floyd, and Paul McCartney. His mix of Comfortably Numb on there was better than the On the Fly mix done by Westwood One, that's for damn sure. And his mix of Run Like Hell wasn't bad either. It was better than the On the Fly done by Westwood One, if you ask me. And he's also done Rush Replay x3, which was the remixes of Exit Stage Left, Grace Under Pressure Live, and A Show of Hands for that DVD set. And the Grace Under Pressure Live spin-off live album that came out in 2009 as a standalone. And he also mixed Clockwork Angels tour in 2013, which was the live document of that tour. So he's had a very successful career as well. And Loverboy, speaking of them, their career continued on with more success after Get Lucky. The follow-up, Keep It Up, was just an equally great album. Again, the same team worked on it, and you had songs like Hot Girls in Love, Strike Zone, the Queen of the Broken Hearts. Great album. In fact, I had it on cassette as a kid, and I still enjoy the album. I listened to it recently. Still a great record. Loving every minute of it. The follow-up, which was produced by Judas Priest producer Tom Allen. That was a great record. Title track. Steal the Thunder, a great deep track with Mike Reno pulling out the Turn Me Loose screams at the very end of the song. You're like, could he top what he did on Turn Me Loose? Well, he did on Steal the Thunder with the screaming of Steal the Thunder like 4 times at the very end of the song in almost the same pitch. But it was F sharp instead of G, but still, great track. This Could Be the Night, great power ballad. It was a top 10 hit for the band. Dangerous, a great rocker. An MTV favorite in those days. Wild Side, an album I did not ever hear in full. I remember Notorious, that was a great tune. Sadly, the album got lost in the shuffle because Columbia Records was swamped with promoting George Michael's Faith, Bruce Springsteen's Tunnel of Love, and the Pink Floyd comeback, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, all released within that same time frame, so Loverboy suffered in the promotion department. Wasn't their fault, but they kind of came in, I believe, 5th place compared to Michael Jackson's Bad, Tunnel of Love, Momentary Lapse of Faith, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, then Wild Side. Well, Momentary Lapse sold 5 million, so I can't really gripe, but you know what I mean. A lot of competition on Columbia at that point. A lot of bands releasing product, and one had to suffer of those 5 releases. Sadly, it turned out to be Loverboy. Although Wild Side wasn't a bad record. Some great songs, some not so great, but still quality product. Then the band continued to tour, release albums sporadically in the 1990s until tragedy struck in 2000, when co-founder, bass player Scott Smith was washed overboard and drowned at sea, losing his life in his 40s. After Scott Smith's passing, he was replaced by Ken Spider Sineve, who continues to be Loverboy's bass player now into 2024 as of this recording. And Loverboy continued to make music and continue to tour to this day. And this coming summer, they will be opening up for Sammy Hagar in his tribute to Van Halen tour, which is going to feature Michael Anthony in the band, Joe Satriani, and Jason Bonham. And that should be one killer bill. If you're going to go to it, I urge you to check it out. Loverboy opening for Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony. They're playing some decent, good-sized places, those two. And if you don't like who Loverboy's playing with, well, go see David Lee Roth sound like Kermit the Frog in another venue. Because David Lee Roth cannot sing anymore. Sammy Hagar, I know we goofed on him in the past, but he still has his vocal chops intact. Despite the fact he's almost 80 years old, bless him. And Michael Anthony, the unsung hero of Van Halen. You can't go wrong with that. Now back to Loverboy, folks. And over the years, Get Lucky has been re-releases, remastered CDs. Back to the album. Sheesh, I'm all over the place. Get Lucky was released as a remastered CD in 2006, supervised by Paul Dean, the remastering, done by Joseph Palmacchio, who remastered albums for the Kiss catalog from the first album up through Crazy Nights in 97, 98. He did a phenomenal job with the transfer of this remaster. And another remaster came out on Rock Candy Records in the UK in 2021, remastered by John Astley, who, of course, is most famous for us fans of The Who, for his remastering of their catalog and his association with The Who going back to 1978's Who Are You album. And speaking of Loverboy, they're also going to be releasing a document of the Get Lucky tour, re-releasing their Live in 82 concert film as a CD Blu-ray, newly remixed and restored by Paul Dean and company for release on Ear Music sometime this summer. And already a live performance of Turn Me Loose is leaked, and you're going to get the full show on DVD, Blu-ray, and some of the songs on CD had to be cut for time constraints, including the encore, which was emotional. Yeah, the song sung by Paul Dean where Mike Reno played rhythm guitar. It'll be on the DVD, but sadly not on the CD, but oh my goodness. If you're a fan of Get Lucky, I urge you to buy that when that comes out. Links will be below. Loverboy Live in 82. And that's all I can say about Loverboy for this episode is Get Lucky is a masterpiece. And speaking of recommendations of albums, I'm going to recommend the 2006 remaster of Get Lucky, which brought with it 3 demo tracks, which were not on the original album, which were I Told You So, which was an acoustic ditty, which is great. Boy Likes the Girl, if they had finished working on the song and continued developing it into a killer, lengthy tune with guitar solos and things, it could have fit on the album, but it would have been too long to some. And the other demo, which didn't make the album, Your Town Saturday Night. Also a great outtake, which, if they had worked on it some more, could have fit the album as well. And an early demo of Workin' for the Weekend, which is no different to the finished product, except Mike Reno's voice was drenched in flange on the demo version. Luckily, there was no flange on the final product. Thank goodness for that. And on the topic of Canadian rock bands that were releasing albums at that point in time, I'm also going to recommend Bryan Adams' You Want It, You Got It album, which to me was one of his best albums, and featured Lonely Nights, One Good Reason, Don't Look Now, Coming Home, Fits You Good, one of his best rockers, Jealousy, Tonight, which was covered by the late Randy Meisner of the Eagles, the title track, Last Chance, which featured a brilliant saxophone solo by Jonathan Gerber, and the ballad No One Makes It Right to bring the album on home. And I'm also going to recommend for kicks and giggles Worlds Apart by Saga, which features On the Loose, Wind 'Em Up, Amnesia, Framed, Time's Up, a host of other songs which escape my brain at the moment, but still a classic album. If you're a fan of Canadian 80s rock, this is for you. And that, my friends, is my look at Loverboy's Get Lucky on this episode. But before I go, I'm going to sound like Foghorn Leghorn when I say this. I says before I go. Here's some other radio shows and podcasts I want you fans to give your love to, and to quote General MacArthur, I shall return. The Rockin' Tours with Guy Pratt and Gary Kemp, both from Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets. Also check out Eddie Trunk's podcast. How can anyone not like Eddie Trunk? 2 Million Impossible. And of course the Chris Jericho podcast, Y2J for the Win. And the following YouTube channels. Michael Borland's Classic Rock channels on YouTube. John Bowden's various Classic Rock YouTube channels. He's awesome. Freeform Rock podcast with my buddy Mark Alden Taylor. That's recommended as well. The Villain Cult podcast with Roy Dam, Eric Lawton, and Mike Lockhart. How can anyone not like those guys? Classic Rock Review, that's recommended. The Professor of Rock. Darren Locke, he's recommended. He's funny. He's deadpan British humor, but God bless him. Melinda Murphy's channel's recommended. Brandon Snyder, great YouTuber. Pete Pardo, Sea of Tranquility. The Man, the Myth, the Legend. And my new favorite, JCM Led Zeppelin Stories. Jose is the king of Led Zeppelin, and the man who's got more copies of In Through the Outdoor than any other human being I know in my life. He has about 50 some odd copies of it. And his YouTube channels and his deep dives into Zeppelin things, awesome, awesome, awesome. And if you're not a Zeppelin fan, check out his channel. You'll be very surprised, guaranteed. Then again, he's the same dude who got me into Santana as of late. JCM, I want to thank you for that, brother. And you're more than welcome to come on my show, and you and I definitely will have to do a collaboration one of these days. We'll have to figure out the time and the place. So before I go, here's some recommendations for other podcasts and so forth and so on. I want you fans to give your love to, and to quote General MacArthur, I shall return.
Hi, this is Mark Olden Taylor from the Freeform Rock Podcast, where we rock and roll all night and party every day. Come check us out on iTunes and Podbean. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Chris.
And we're from the Decibel Geek Podcast. And if you love this...
then you'll love us.
That's right. Brand new episode every single Monday. You can find us on iTunes and at decibelgeek.com. And the best thing is, it's rock and roll and it's always free.
Mistress Carey reporting for duty. That's right. After rocking the airwaves in Boston for 22 years on WAAF, welcome to the Mistress Carey Podcast. And if you love rock, this weekly podcast is for you. I'll introduce you to new bands that I think you are going to love and keep you in touch with the bands that are already your favorites. I'll take you backstage and expose you to the people behind the rock. Plus, we'll talk about everything else that we know and love, like motorcycles, tattoos, skydiving, hot rods, food, booze, and so much more. And let's not forget all of the branches of our military, our veterans, and first responders. Everything you know and loved about the Mistress Carey show, but now I'm unfiltered and uncensored. Fuck yeah! And if you never heard me before, well, welcome to the party. Subscribe now so you don't miss Mistress Carey Podcast.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
Brain damage with Pink Floyd.
This stuff can give you brain damage.
Pink Floyd radio show.
Use only as directed.
There is no downside in the moon, really. Matter of fact, it's all
Your controls are set to the Random Precision Radio Network. This is Floody and Slip, an hour of Pink Floyd. I'm Craig Bailey. Find us online at floodyanslip.com. Write to us at pink at floodyanslip.com. Floody and Slip is a Random Precision production.
You're listening to Nights with Alice Cooper. I think my Speedo is starting to cut off the flow of oxygen to my head. And that's why I got so
temperamental with anyone who has the impertinence to question his wisdom, and hello, I pops his inner courier.
Hi, and welcome to In the Studio. Redbeard here with the stories behind history's greatest rock and roll albums. Follow In the Studio on Facebook, at Redbeard Rocks on Twitter, and online at inthestudio.net.
Well, my friends, that wraps up another exciting episode of TJR's Classic Rock Corner podcast, which was on Loverboy. Next episode will be in not too distant future, because it will be on another band who 1981 saw them break through, and it's an American band who call themselves The Tubes. So I'll have the Completion Backward Principle episode ready to go next, and it'll be out next week, so I'll be having more episodes come out at lightning speed. Then the Led Zeppelin In Through the Outdoor episode, which I'll work on as well. And the beginning of the year, we'll have the re-aired, retooled version of Pink Floyd's The Wall, with some modifications for the album's 45th birthday. And we got a lot of other things to do for you. Even the first Led Zeppelin album, which I think I'll air before In Through the Outdoor, to kind of give you a bookend effect of Led Zeppelin. Beginning and end, 55 and 45 years respectively. So what will it be after those? We'll let you know. So for now, it's the classic rock brainiac, Terrence Reardon. As always, thanking you all for tuning on into this fine show of mine, which I am very grateful for all of you to tune on in. You all know who you are. And as always, I love you very much. Thanks for listening. I hope to see you soon. And I love you all. Good night. God bless you. TJR's Classic Rock Corner was written, produced, edited, so forth and so on by yours truly, the classic rock brainiac, Terrence Reardon. The intro music and the outro music is done by the one and only Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. Copyright 2024 TJR Rock Sponge Incorporated. All rights reserved. Once again, I thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for listening. Good night. God bless you.